This is not a take two, folks. This is not. We're not re-recording this because I'm not laughing my ass off internally. But Jamie, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. The entire day though, I've just been like, this was an episode, uh, and it was the finale episode. So
Hello, everyone. I'm Ronan Unchained, and welcome to the Syndicate, a Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, and I am joined again by. I solely appreciate it because she has. I can't imagine the next 24 hours of what you guys got cooked up at HoloNet.
oh,
Like
man.
I saw the post, I saw the announcement. I'm like, wow, how much are you guys running on like Red Bulls and Monsters? And hopefully not a lot. Hopefully you're drinking tea and coffee. But I have Jamie, Jan the Jedi from HoloNet Marauders. Jamie, how you doing?
Hello. I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me back. And yeah, we have a lot of stuff coming up for HoloNet. And so to say I'm excited that the Mando season 3 has ended is an understatement. Is like a bit of an understatement because there's a lot going on for us in the next couple of weeks. But I can chat about that later. But yeah, thank you for having me again.
Thank you. Folks, this is a spoiler talk. Um, I've tried in the past doing non-spoiler stuff, and you know what? Maybe we'll do a minute or two of non-spoiler talk, and then we're gonna have to go into spoilers because we can't talk about not spoiling stuff. The best thing I could tell you all is that you should watch this episode and then check this out as soon as possible. I'll start us off. I had a blast with this finale. There are moments that I was hollering and cheering. The last scene, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been waiting to see this for 3 seasons." Having said that, um, I do feel like there are parts, there's opportunities for improvement in a lot of parts of this finale, and of the season. But the season, we'll talk about that later on, or I don't know, maybe another time. But for this season finale, I dug what Rick Famuyiwa and John Favreau did. However, I feel like it was a solid B plus, and it could have been a solid A plus out the door. And I may or may not put some of that on the promotion, being like, this is gonna wrap a lot of things up that we've been leading up to with the shows and what. And I was like, I literally, Jamie, I literally, this was my whole time when I heard that, and then the finale ended. I was like, yay! I am happy. I had such a fun time. But I know that people are gonna be like,
interesting.
People are gonna be like that, and I love that. It's one of my favorite clips I ever have. And I was like that at moments. But I think it's worth a try. I think it's worth you checking out. I'm not throwing my hands up in the air. Be like, this show. I'm not doing that. But I anyway.
I got a lot of questions. I got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I guess non-spoilery for a quick second, just quick little wrap up. I enjoyed the episode and I enjoyed this entire season. I think that it had like really like high points as well, but there is also just a lot of confusion this season to me. And I think that is not a spoiler. This season is confusing. Story wise, like especially like this like last episode, like there was a lot of stuff that they had to tie up, and I don't really think they tied anything up. Maybe they did tie some things up, but I think that it was just really, really rushed the way that they did tie things up. So I mean, like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this episode, and I agree. Like I loved like the last scene, except for the very last shot. But we'll get back to that.
Yeah, believe. That's all, folks.
Literally, that's what. Oh my gosh. I found myself this season a lot of times just trying to figure out like, oh, what is the bigger meaning of this? What is the bigger story? Or like who is the spy kind of like situation? Like I found myself asking a lot of questions this season that I didn't necessarily get answered. And there was a lot of things that honestly, like I went into this season, I got notified of leak-wise by accident. That like yeah, but like if I didn't know that going into this season, then like seeing it firsthand, I would have been like, well, that's weird. But still, that didn't change anything. Seeing that in like these episodes also, I was like, this is weirder than I thought it was going to be. Like there was a few moments like that this season as well, but overall, I did enjoy this season. My favorite episode is still season 2, episode 1, the Marshal. But I did enjoy this season overall, Mandalorian, and I will continue to watch the show.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. But yes, so folks, we're talking spoilers now of episode 8, the return, the finale of season 3. So if you don't want to get spoiled, go watch it, then come back and hear our thoughts because I got a feeling, I got a hunch that we got a lot of juicy stuff to talk about. So may the force be with you. I okay. I think that then we finally, even me phrasing that way, then finally had like we knew what the goal was in his mind and in the scenario and what he was gonna do. That he got separated from his son, his adopted son now. He wants to get back to him, but he also knows that listen, we could fight this war, we can come back, but unless a Gus is dead, this is gonna be a cycle. So let's just cut the head off and be like, we could finally have it planted foot in our home world.
So I
And
think
go for it.
no, one thing that I want to get out of the way immediately here is they should have dropped Gideon earlier in the season. They should have like showed him many more times during the season and not just saved him for the last 2. Even if it was just like a couple like one-off scenes of like, oh, he's getting broken out, but we don't show who broke him out. It's just he's getting broken out of prison. Like that would have been cool. And then it shows, oh, he's on this planet. Like if they split it up a little bit more, it wouldn't have been as jarring in the last episode of, hey, here I am. I'm the reason. I'm the Dark Trooper. I have clones of myself.
Deuces.
And then Din saying to Grogu, like, we have to take care of this guy now. It's like, okay, that would have been nice if you said that was your goal, like mid-season. Because early on in the season, it was, oh, my goal is to bathe in living waters and get redeemed. Okay, cool. Then he didn't have a goal. The goal was retake Mandalore, but at that point, it was like, you need to be clearer than that. You got to like take out Moff Gideon, right?
Right.
So that's one point of confusion for me. Why was Moff Gideon saved just for the very end like that? I got, yeah.
I agree with that. Giancarlo is so damn good at this role.
Yes.
That I think the reason why it went down. This is weird to say. It went down better for me is because. And I'm not bragging this, folks. I'm just saying the facts that I was very fortunate to be in London and that I saw the episode, the 7th episode, a week and a half ago. So I felt some time in there and be like, wait, what is getting cooking up? And blah, 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 blah. And I had to keep my mouth shut to be like, wait, is there already a power vacuum within the remnants of the Empire? Are we really dealing with that? That's fascinating. And that makes sense. Especially in this time period. But I do agree that we should have seen more of him, and not even just spent like half an episode with him, but like sense his presence. Other than I heard he got killed, I heard he got whiplash, I heard he escaped and whatnot. It's one thing to hear that in talk, and then seeing stuff out. Like a thing I'm gonna bring up is that. Something that was like, whoa, for a lot of us and the show was Carson Taylor finds out there's Beskar alloy and his escape shuttle. And it's explained to us, not directly, but like, this is who broke him up, and they just happen to be Beskar. But in the grander scheme of the story plot, and even Carson Taylor, that never really brings up again. That's never brought up like,
no, it's not.
Can we trust Mandalorians now? Like, are you telling us the truth, whatnot? Which it sort of contradicts the team up agreement.
I got a lot of questions because, like, to the New Republic, they don't know what happened on Mandalore. They have no idea, not a clue. Unless like R5 was like broadcasting the entire time. Like, there's no way that like they would know what happened on Mandalore aside from, oh, hey, it looks like there's Mandalorians on Mandalore again. So that's an interesting thing, and like plus like they did a really good job of showing in the finale of all of Gideon's troopers were in the Beskar armor because they had a lot of like the ding ding of like the shots like ricocheting off of them, which is like, oh cool, they're wearing Beskar armor, but it doesn't explain the Beskar shard in like that shuttle, like that's a little confusing to me still of why there would just be like a piece of Beskar embedded into the wall.
Or the thriller aspect that was presented to us, that was a big point of like, wait, who could we trust? Who can we
Yeah.
trust? Is this Una? And we
Yeah.
after this finale, we know it's a weird thing. It's a meta thing. We know, okay, as of now, we could trust the armor. We could trust
Yeah.
Cosqueries. We could trust Act Wolves. But in Carson's mind, unless they talked about it and was like, Carson, so A, B, C, D, I'll see you at the MASH unit in the 5 minutes. I'll be there. And it's sort of, again, it's like you present as that cool mystery angle of like, where does this trust lie? Can we trust our friends and allies who are fighting besides us? And then it's just like, no, it's a very meta thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, like the entire relationship between Carson Teva and Din Djarin is also really interesting because
Yes.
Carson Teva was just out there doing his job trying to arrest Din in the first place, and then he saves him. And then he tries to arrest him again, and then he tracks him down and gets a tip, but like, are they friends? Are they that now they're coworkers? And so it's just an interesting thing because like the Din willingly goes out of his way. And this is why I'm like I got a lot of questions. I feel like that's a bold statement. I can't make a statement like that. I have to let this sit for like a full day before I like process like my full thoughts. But like, yeah, I'm very confused with just like the way that like things panned out. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
That's okay. I'm gonna say this, and I said it in my reaction that I love the dynamic between Carson Teva and Mando.
Yes.
I named it now, and I wouldn't be surprised. They're like, yo, how about Jim Gordon and Batman? Can we do that?
It's
and I'm
just like that.
It fits perfectly. Where it's like it's out of jurisdiction, and I was just like, do it, run with it. Just be very, just do another draft in your writing. Just make sure things are clear within in world, not just out world. You and I, we've seen these shows, we've seen Clone Wars multiple times, so we can connect the dots. But in world, and to Joe Schmo who doesn't watches all the shows and stays up at midnight or 4 a.m, 3 a.m, they might be close to it, and that's complicated with that aspect. We start off right where we left off. They're trying to get out of Mandalore, that's now an occupied Imperial base. Din is separated from the group. Axe is still making his way up to the atmosphere or past the atmosphere. And Din fights his way back, which I was at least in that aspect, I was like, okay, we're seeing the fighter in him, and he's fighting his way out.
Mm-hmm.
He's snapping necks, which I'm like, ooh, good. I haven't felt like this since the Sin episode where he just literally took out the client's base. And Grogu comes to the rescue and helps him out, which I thought was so cute. But it's sort of, some of my issues still with like storylines that they decide to bring back instantly instead of let it pull the wristband out. Like, you felt the tension when Grogu was whimpering, seeing Din and him separated, and they took him, and now it's like, okay, they're back together again. But now they've both are together, and they've made it clear we got to take out Gideon. Boom, we're off and running. I up until that point, I dug the episode, and one thing I would say is that, and I'll give him credit to this, still the whole time I was waiting to see who was going to betray us. Which, who knows what that says about the title of the spies? Was that a good thing, a bad thing? Was that a red arrow? Was that just something to throw us off? I don't know. But what did you think up to that point? As far of the episode?
I think that one thing that I absolutely love, when Grogu is in the IG suit, I don't love that, first of all. But one thing that I do love about it is when they choose to use the yes or no feature of the voice. And so like he like stops like the other troopers, and like he does the no with like the droid voice, but then when he's like actually talking to Din or like understanding him, you just see like Grogu like nod, and it's not like he's like smashing the yes button, it's actually just him speaking. So I like how they were smart about their usage of the yes and no, because they could have just like spammed us with like the yes no. But in like a serious moment, they're like, all right, yeah, Grogu understands. Yeah, let's not do the spamming of the buttons. I think that the entire like first like few minutes of this episode were just like breakneck speed. Everything was just going so fast, and like you have so many actual like plots going on at the same time. And It was fine. I don't know. I'm sitting here like trying to like enjoy it as just like a viewer, but at the same time, like rational, how does this work? Brain is just like, well, how is Axe Woves literally rocketing out of the atmosphere through a storm right now? Like I spent like a good like few minutes like just like trying to like process that, and then he's got to have like a titanium like neck or something in order to like make it out of the atmosphere.
The force, the
It was
force.
something wild. Like all of that was just like interesting, and like I don't know. That was all just like very interesting. And then he makes it out. The rest of the Mandalorians, Bo-Katan and the rest of the Mandalorians find this like underground like grotto area that like the remnant Mandalorians there are like, oh yeah, we planted all of this. Like that was such a cool moment, but they're there for like 2 seconds because then they're like, all right, your reinforcements are here. Like, wait a second. And then Din's just fine. He immediately like gets out of there. Like that, I think it was just a little bit too rushed, all of it. Like you had a lot of
Okay.
plots going on, and everything was just kind of like, all right, Din's captured. Oh no, he's not. He's fine. Okay.
I
Like
hearing your thoughts about it and hearing my notes about it, about like maybe the episode should have been 5 to 15 minutes longer just to feel the length, the time we're spending in the Mandalore epicness, and then the post battle. Um, Hearing all this, I remember walking out of, and people, whatever people. I remember when walked out of the Rise of Skywalker, and I remember I was like the first third or the first like 20-30 minutes. It was so fascinating, all this stuff, but the editing was so quick that I couldn't. I barely had time to spend with what
yeah,
Kylo is doing, with Poe flying the Falcon, what Ray is doing, and it was just going like this so fast. I was just like, whoa,
that
this is a TV
yeah.
show. You have the time to slow down.
But the thing is, like the way that they set up this season is they didn't pace it well. And like I think that I'll probably end up dropping that little criticism to the ends of the earth, but like season 3 just was not paced well. Like I've talked about it before. Like the story like is there kind of, but
I can see that.
at some points it's like the pacing of it is just wild. Like there's so much that they could have like done differently and it still like would have made perfect sense. But they packed so much into this last episode. They had to do this really fast sequence of it's action, 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 action. Oh, it's cute Grogu. It's action, action, action. Oh, Axe is not the spy. Wait a second, maybe he is. Oh no, he's not. He's gonna save the day. Like it was interesting. It was a choice. But I was still having a good time watching it the entire time. And
Absolutely.
yeah, like I moving like through like Din's like entire sequence. I love how he utilized R5. Um,
Yes.
I loved every single moment of that.
Oh,
There's so many good R5 moments of him just being a total like baby, just like looking over the edge of things and like, but he was doing his best, and I
right.
love him for that.
There's a shot of just him panning to one side of the room to the other, and I felt the either the framework or the frames per second. It felt like the '70s framing whatnot,
Hmm.
and when he pull up his thrusters and whatnot, I guess the first instant you could tell I'm a geek is that I thought of R2 when he pulled his thrusters and he burned up the super battle droids and Remy
Yeah,
the Sith. Immediately I thought of that. I was like, oh, thank God R5 is involved, because I've loved his addition to the
yeah.
crew and to the storyline.
I
Um,
it's good, and like I loved his like interactions with all the mouse droids as well. Like all of that was just like adorable. Like the first one like on patrol and his little like siren going off, and then like the full fleet of them afterwards, and R5 is just like see ya, just leaves. Like I love that.
it was charming. But speaking of charming, Katie Sackhoff as
Yeah.
Bo-Katan, I have never been so more pumped to see someone kick Kulo. I mean, the last time I probably saw that was either like Ripley in Aliens, or I don't know. I don't know what was the last time, but like her, them being like, all right, we're gonna do the charge. They charge up, the armor drops in, they team up, and she just, the minute I saw them together, I was like, oh, light it up, light it up. She lit up the dark saber and charged, and I was just like,
Yes.
somebody play Metallica, somebody play Led Zeppelin. I am, oh my gosh, I am in the zone.
That was such a good moment of her
Oh,
just leading all of them into battle. Like that was a really, really strong moment, and I loved every second of that.
and I felt, I don't know about you, I felt not identical, but similar vibes to the Siege of Mandalore, where you see the Commando Imperials
Yeah.
thrusting up and then coming down. There's shots of that in Mandalore of them coming up, coming down, but you felt the tension of them. All right, they're gonna hit, they're gonna collide, and you just see the armor sledgehammering fools. You see Bo wielding the dark saber like a katana at points. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's a choice, and I love that choice. But yeah, I it was so. I'm first of all, and we'll talk about the season later. But I'm just, regardless of how people feel about this storyline, I am so happy and proud for Katie, what she's been able to do with the character, and just like a new layer to stretching what we know of the character and what we love about the
Yeah.
character. I'm so happy that like we might be mixing stuff, but I don't really see that many flaws or criticism to give of what she did and what the character's been through. We could talk about, the dark saber being crushed and being like, what the and other stuff, but like for the most part, seeing what she's done, communicating and teaming up with this covert, seeing the ideologies, seeing how she approaches even her own ex group, I've really been just like, I'm so happy for Katie, and I can't wait for the future of her character.
Yeah, Katie Sackhoff has honestly been like the reason that like I have loved this season. And so like she has been like the best part of the show so far for this season.
Yeah.
And everything in Bo-Katan has like absolutely blown me out of the room every time. This episode as well was so perfect for her, with just her leading everyone into battle, showing the true unity of all the Mandalorians, and plus she gets to drop the line again that Mandalorians are stronger together. And
Mm-hmm.
I've loved every single time that she's said that the armorer has said that. I believe that Paz and Din both say it as well at some points.
I believe so.
Um,
Yeah.
like I love how they use that again, because it means so much, and to actually like see that happen. And I'm pretty sure that the reason that the dark saber got destroyed was because I bought one myself last year. This is a curse, it really is, because like I bought like the Razor Crest like Lego like the week before the Razor Crest blew up. So I mean, I'm
Damn it,
not
Jamie. Just
I'm
kidding.
not saying it's my fault, but it might be my fault. um, but I think that it's super important actually that it was destroyed. I love that it was destroyed, because it's just another symbol of, you don't necessarily need that symbol, because what you do need is that strong leader who will be the one to unite them all, and that is Bo-Katan, and she has. So I don't know, maybe eventually down the road, like Grogu will like fix it or something. That could be pretty cool.
I'm not gonna start throwing jabs, but all I'm gonna say is this: I prefer this being crushed instead of seeing something like. I prefer that. I prefer seeing something crushed instead of something being tossed over. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Yeah, you nailed that with that symbolism. Be like, even dancing, like, I don't care about this sword.
Yeah.
Your actions are speaking louder. That's what I'm following you for. Like, that's what we're all following you. Like, you've been knocked down so many times, but you choose to get back into the fight, and that's what we're following you.
Yeah.
Whether that leads us good or bad, we're with you. And like, look at all of us. Like, I didn't think we would get to this point where the Children of the Watch and the Night Owls would team up and rejoice in For Mandalore. That's beautiful. If there's something to give a star, a golden star to this crew, is like, you got that right. At least for me, that the aspect of the culture, you got that right. It could have been finessed better with more protein, but in the end, from beginning to end, I appreciate that they got that.
Yeah.
But we see Dan fighting his way through to the shields with the Imperial Commandos, which, I don't know about you, I felt some John Wick vibes seeing that action, seeing him going through. And
Yeah,
at
a little
points I
bit.
could see Lateef Crowder kicks. So at some point in the reaction, I was just like, Lateef, I know it's you. I see you. I'm proud of you. Keep doing your kicks. And there was a shot. That was the last Commandos, where Din slides in. He has his blaster. He shoots somebody, and there's a commando on the frame of the camera, and he gets shot in the face. I was like, somebody watched John Wick. Someone's like, yo, let's do that
Yeah,
for
this was
Mandalorian.
a brutal sequence, because it was very I mean, obviously with like the walls, it was very episode 1 Darth Maul and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan.
Yeah, Duel of Fates,
But
yeah.
mix that with John Wick fighting and killing like everyone, and that's exactly what it was, and it was good. It was a modern interpretation of the 1999 classic The Phantom Menace. So that's what it really was. I loved every second of that, and I loved how Din utilized the weapons as he went along. So he had the shield, he had
Yes.
like the staff at one point, and then he had the blasters. So it was good. It was very very good, and it showed all of his skills as well. I also love how all the super commandos had like a knife in their boot, like the standard, just like whoosh, here we
Yeah.
are.
I love the little nod to Force Awakens with the traitor weapon one on. It could be. I don't know if it's bullet, but I thought it was
Oh, was it?
I think
I
it
don't
was.
think I don't think it turned. I think it was
We
just
didn't
like an
turn. Okay.
electro like staff. It looked more like the scout troopers have in Fallen Order. Every scout trooper
Mm,
has like those batons. Never seen so many
right.
scout troopers with batons. It looked more like that than the
Okay.
turnaround one.
Um, but we get to Moff Gideon, and we see that Commandant Hux was right about him being like, "Yo, fool, you got your own kitchen going. What are you doing?" Gideon has been cooking in the cloning kitchen,
Yeah,
and
I got a lot of questions about all of this, but
which doesn't it surprised me. It doesn't surprise me because again, it's a whole power vacuum about like, well, he feels that he should be the one leading. The fact that he
yeah,
was like, I don't give a about Thrawn, he's not showing up. Let's change who's in charge. So I'm not surprised that he would do this. And I love how pompous Giancarlo played it. Like we were this close to
yeah,
perfection, almost like Krennic when he would talk about the Death Star. And um, yeah, I don't know how that the science, if you will, if there's any science that works on that, but I believe he would do this. This doesn't shock me. It was shocking to see, but the act doesn't shock me that he would
yeah.
go down this route. How do you feel about it?
I agree with that. I mean, like first off, like Giancarlo Esposito is actually the sweetest guy. But he is an incredible actor, and I love every single second that like we actually get to see him in this show. Um, and I think that in general, the best Imperials in Star Wars, the best Imperial officers, are the ones who are super self-centered, and they're like, it's my project, and it's going to be this, and I don't care what anyone else thinks, but it's my project, and I will do anything to see it through. And Gideon is a perfect example of that. He doesn't care what the rest of the Shadow Council is doing. He's just going to do his own thing, and that's that. They can all whatever. Like he doesn't care about Thrawn in the future. He's just like, I'm doing my own thing. Um, so yeah, I agree that like it's not like outlandish at all that he would be trying to like clone himself. I think that it was a bit of it like I guess ish of a MacGuffin like last year of like there literally were Snokes in those tanks in season 2.
Yep.
Not Gideon's. And so like I guess like maybe he was working with the other remnants that were working on cloning tech, but he was also doing his own side projects. Which, that's how most experiments go that are evil experiments. You're gonna work on your own little side projects. And yeah, I don't know. It's just very self-reflective of it's an Imperial who thinks that everything he's doing is the correct thing. And he thinks that he's the only one that matters. And so that's why, like last episode, he says, "Oh, I added the one last element to the Dark Trooper suit here. Me, I'm the element." I thought that was a really weird line last week. And then this week it's like, guess what? He has clones. And it kind of came out of nowhere, but at the same time, it was like, okay, sure. This was one of the things that like got leaked for me.
Oh
That someone spoiled for
no.
me, but I didn't know how it was going to pan out. It was just like,
Yeah,
oh, there's
yeah.
clones of Gideon, and I'm like, well, that's weird. I don't know how that's gonna go, and I kind of forgot about it until like literally the scene in the episode for the finale, and I'm like, oh, so these are the clones, and then Grogu and Din just destroy them. We don't see them in action or anything. There's like one jump scare, and then they're dead. They're just all gone. Like, oh, okay. The most interesting thing about it, though, that I have questions about, though, is Gideon claims they're Force sensitive. That's not possible. First of all,
Well, I
so
would.
I
Yeah.
I got a lot of questions about it, and like we're never gonna know if they actually were because Din and Grogu killed all of them. So like maybe they were successful Force sensitive clones, but that doesn't make any sense because I don't know. I got a lot of questions, and honestly, this doesn't provide any clarity. And I know that John and Dave are trying to tie this to the broader cloning Palpatine story, but like, oh boy, boo boys, what are you doing?
It's weird because we
It's
don't really
difficult.
need that. You could hint at it like subtly, but we don't really
Yeah.
need to go down that route. I think
if
the blue guy is enough. That motherfucker. That's enough of
yeah,
an issue. You don't need to start talking about like coming soon in
I
20
think
years. All of this is gonna go to.
they could have like literally like alluded to the whole cloning thing, but I don't think that they should have had Gideon clones is what I'm getting
Yeah,
at. Is they could have alluded to it, be like that was Brendel Hux's project or something like that, because he talks about Project Necromancer,
yeah,
literally raising from the dead.
literally,
how much
literally.
more how much more on the nose are we gonna get here? So like, I think that like
Google.
I think that should have been more than enough. I think that the
Yes.
Gideon clones were a little unnecessary. I love Giancarlo, but do I love like 20 of them? No.
Nor would I
Not
would have wanted to see
really.
20 naked Giancarlos fighting and be
Oh
like for
no.
the Empire. I was like, no,
No,
I don't need to see those
we're
multiple
good.
versions. But yes, so we see him duke it out
Yep.
with Gideon.
Good fight. Very good fight,
Good
I
fight.
will say.
It felt a little bit like BVS where Batman has the mech suit and
Mm,
he just like still pounding away. And at points I was like, damn, so him slashing that saber in season 2 finale, that wasn't just rehearsals one. That was like Gideon can know how to handle his own, but he is enhanced with the suit and
mhm.
whatnot. Um, and while we're doing this, we're seeing Tosca Reeves sliding and doing her thing, which I was like,
Yeah.
oh, just seeing those moments, I was like, that fight could have
Yeah.
been a whole episode by itself.
Casca had a
Um,
lot of really good shots. There were a lot of really good shots of her when like sliding across like one of the platforms and then just launching again.
with
Like
the knee,
there's
yeah.
a lot of really good ones.
And then in the midst of all this, we see the Praetorian guards come
Mm.
back, and I literally was just like, I said it earlier in the episode, I was like, John and Dave and Rick, if you killed Din,
They
I
weren't gonna
will
kill
never
him.
forgive you. I don't know. That's the thing about the how even the you could say about the writing. I didn't know where it was going, and I literally was like, if they killed Paz before the whole climactic movie event that's going to culminate all these shows. If they killed Din before that, people would have been like, "Yo,
They weren't gonna kill
what are
him
you
for that
doing?"
exact reason. Like that alone, the fact that there's gonna be a movie, they're not they weren't gonna kill him. I like
There.
before I officially watched the episode this morning. AJ watched it before I did, and I was just like, you got to tell me one thing. Does Din die in this episode? And he's like, what? No, because I'm like, all right, good, because like that was like the one thing I cared about, because social media was like aflame this week of people being like, oh my god, he's gonna die, because all the creators
Mhm.
were like, oh, you're gonna like lose your minds, and it's like, did I though? Um, but yeah, the Praetorian Guards. Whew. I love that, because the Praetorian Guards are so highly trained and so mysterious, and they know exactly, like literally, which buttons to press to kill someone when it comes down to it. Especially
Mhm.
Mandalorian, they know where all of the weak spots are, and they're just going for it. I will say I had a moment in which Grogu arrives and he just like runs in the IG suit. And all the Praetorian guards are just like, what the hell is that thing? And then they just go after him. In that moment, I'm literally sitting there like, oh my god, I hope that Grogu doesn't defeat 3 Praetorian guards, because it will just squash the entire Last Jedi
Mythology of
throne
them,
room scene.
yeah.
And I'm just like, no, 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 this better not happen. And I'm glad that he didn't, because like for a moment I was like, if this little green bean
Cop
overshadows
out.
something again, I am going to rip someone's arms off. I don't know.
Yes, I agree, folks. Who are watching this now, I like to say this that like I was also concerned of like how is this going to play out, like how are they going to beat him, because if Paz gets taken down like that, like Din shouldn't take him down by himself. Bo shouldn't be able to take it down by herself, nor should Grogu. It took 2 people. It took a father and a son to
Yeah.
be like, okay, you know how to fight. I know how to do the Force. To just go bing, bing,
Yeah.
and I
So
love that. I love that.
I loved Grogu and Din fighting together, because I love how everything that Grogu has showed for fighting in this season has been, he's playing defense. He is playing hard defense, and it's really good. And I love every time he gets to show those skills, in which like tossing the weapons out of the way, or like readjusting things like just enough, or just getting himself out of the way, or protecting
Yeah.
Din. It's just enough. And I like how it panned out with Din doing the actual attacking, and Grogu just like, lifting his arm a little bit so he gets the right angle, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, it worked, and I liked the scene with the guards because of it. And it was only 3 Praetorian guards, and so it was like, okay, yeah, I could see this happening.
Yeah. I
I
don't have
won't
to
be.
suspend my disbelief that much.
Yeah,
And we see that happening, and while that happening, Bo comes and lets Din know, like, listen, this is my fight. I'm
yeah,
gonna finish him, get Grogu to safety. Let me get this out of the way. And I just, again, we didn't see the purge. We didn't see Gideon take the saber, or see Bo, but what Katie has done vocally, what Gideon has done vocally, and just physical form, you could tell the history. Be like, oh, we're at it again.
yeah.
You want to do this again or not? And I just love that she just went at it, even though he had that staff that, like, was
Yeah, that was a cool, funny little weapon.
it reminded me a lot of the oh my gosh, my lord, my canon brain is on scrambled eggs right now. They remind me of the staff that
It
Grievous's
looked like
guard had from Revenge of the
yeah,
Sith.
yes, the Magna Guards. It looked just
Right,
like that. It was probably just like a newer like variation of it.
right.
I loved the entire sequence between Gideon and Bo-Katan though, because it was a kind of a flip of last week with Axe and Paz, in which like Paz is like, either concede or fight, and this time Gideon's also doing the same thing. He's like, oh, you're gonna give up, or are you gonna fight me? And Bo's just like, I'm gonna fight you, and I'm gonna kill you, and I
Yeah,
loved it.
yeah.
Um, it was a very, very good moment. It was also another really good fight.
I agree. And to see that even she, she stood her own, but because of an enhanced suit and whatnot, he had planned for this. And seeing how she threw the line of Mandalorians are stronger together, and how
Mhm.
both how Grogu, Din, and both pushed him towards the edge, took his weapons away from him, and let a little poetic that Axe Wolves brought down the destroyer down. He got away, and the thing that was Gideon's previously killed him in the end and destroyed his base. And he was like,
Yeah.
which I I feel like they might cop it out that, like, he's dead and it's all poetic and we did it. But I feel like Giancarlo is gonna walk out of Japan stage, celebration stage, and be like,
I'm back. I mean,
I'm
like,
back again.
yeah. So like, it was a good death, and like I believe he's dead. Like it was literally a big blaze of glory type situation, but it was all of the Mandalorians worked together to make this happen. Like it
Yeah,
was. I love you mentioned it was Gideon's old cruiser that like exploded to blow him up, but and then it was the trio of Din, Bo, and Grogu pushing him off the edge, and Grogu protecting the rest of them, which was another moment that I absolutely loved, of just like seeing him use that again, because back in like season 1 when Grogu uses the
yeah.
force again with like pushing the fire back. It's just he just keeps doing this, man. It's great.
And I love that Bo and Din together. I don't think they'll ever do it, but like, for me, Bo is sort of become the mother figure for Grogu, and the fact that they both like, let's protect Grogu. Like, and it doesn't matter what happens to us. And he went full on, we are Groot, or we are Mandalorians on him.
Yeah.
I just, I love that moment as well. And yeah, they did it. They took Mandalore, which
Yay, we
again,
did it.
I
We
was
killed Gideon.
I was so happy that they did it. But it's another thing where I'm like, this should have felt like the length of a Lord of the Rings fight, where it's like, it's this much
Yeah.
with the stakes, and how much the legend of, like, it's cursed was brought upon us, and in the story. It would have been nice if you felt the length of how much this battle took, because I don't know about you, but Siege of Mandalore, I feel the length of that battle. I
I
feel
was
the night that they fought, and I was like, wow, they're
I was
tired
just
as
gonna
hell.
say, I feel like Siege of Mandalore like was like longer somehow, and like it like literally was runtime longer. But like that's another thing. Like this season and this episode just went so fast. Like I wish that it somehow was split up a little bit more. Um, but that being said, I loved obviously that they have Mandalore now, and then I loved the entire sequence with the Forge. That was great seeing the Forge all cleaned up and pretty much like restored to working order, um, and seeing everyone just like around it of all the kinds of Mandalorians. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was such a moment. Like that was really good. All of them applauding definitely woke up the mythosaur.
Oh, that thing that we set up in episode 2. Oh, I
Yeah,
forgot about that whole thing. I
I
forgot. I'm shocked
That
they didn't use it, Jamie. I'm
it's
shocked.
I'm surprised. I'm really surprised. Like that I'm just really, really surprised by that. There was a lot of hoopla out there that like it was gonna come back again for the finale and like someone was going to like ride it into battle or something, which would have been really cool, but no, it didn't happen. But yeah, I loved that entire sequence of Din deciding I'm going to adopt Grogu, and Grogu's just like cool, and then like it's like Grogu like feels
Officially.
through the
Yeah.
Force, the
Yeah.
Mythosaur.
Yeah.
We had this very long Titanic-esque shot of like just going through the water, and then all of a sudden you think you're gonna see like the ruins of the Titanic, but oh no, it's a Mythosaur, and he's just like, hey.
Which part of me thinks I think they learned a lesson of what some people constructively criticize Boba Fett, where it's like, all right, you bring in the Rancor, you say Boba's gonna learn how to do this, and then the finale, he's just like,
He did it.
"What's up, fools? I got
Yeah.
a toy on us." So I think they learned the lesson, but I don't know if they realized how much of a big deal them bringing back a live Mythosaur was, which is ironic because I
I
mean,
wish
as go for it, Jamie.
No, I just wanted I wish that the Mythosaur, like, was like, "Huh?" And I wish he just kinda, like, poked his head out of the water, like, just so everyone was like, "Oh my god, the Mythosaur is real." Like, I thought that that would have been, like, a cool moment because like, they showed the forge and they showed everyone all the Mandalorians gathered around and, like, Ragnar gets baptized, which is a very cool moment. I wish that, like, they also just showed, like, "Hey, the Mythosaur is here again," and just to show, like, that life on Mandalore again. So, like, we have the Mandalorian people and also because of this more so we also have like this thing that we all believe in still exists, and I think that that would have been a cool moment because still Bo-Katan is the only one who knows that it exists.
Besides the armor, which
She
she was
doesn't
like,
know.
"Yo,
She doesn't know.
well,
Well, Bo claims that she saw it, and the armor is like, yeah,
yeah, right,
okay,
yeah,
sure.
that's true." It's just so ironic because to me, as much as I love the Grogu moments in this season, I'm still of the camp that like they shouldn't have reunited that quickly in another series until maybe this episode where it's like he would have walked out and like Dan had done his William Wallace storyline in this season, and then he fought the battle, he helped take Mandalore back. What's in him? What's in store for him now? He's got a second chance to be a father. And
Yeah,
it's
I
again, I'm not writing. I don't work for Lucasfilm, but that's something I would have done. But it's weird that you hold back the Mythosaur, but Grogu at first chance with another series, you're like, "Beep, we got to bring him back."
Yeah, I agree. That was going into this season, that was one thing that I really wish that they had handled differently because the whole end of season 2 is Din and Grogu parting.
Yeah,
And then season episode 1, they're just back together. And like
yeah.
I know obviously Book of Boba Fett like tells us how, but also how it happens in Book of Boba Fett is literally Din's like, "Oh my god, you're here." Like it's and Pelly's just
Yeah,
like, "Ta-da!" Like
yeah.
it's the weirdest little reunion. But yeah,
It
I
happened already. We
there's
can't
just like
change
so
it.
much. Yeah, and like, I agree that would have
Yeah.
been a cool like moment for it. But um
But
yeah.
we take back Mandalore. Uh, Din. This is something I really appreciated, which we talked about earlier, is that Din's now like, okay, he's my son now. He's an apprentice. I
Hmm.
gotta take him on his road trips, take him on his journey, and meets up with Carson Taylor and be like, "So I'm gonna be Batman. You be Jim Gordon. We gotta keep the Imperial remnants out of look. If you hear anything, you let me know." And he's like, "You want to work for the New Republic?" And that's just like, "No, I'll choose my cases, but throw them my way because you guys clearly can't handle it, and you guys rather not put that effort into it." And which I love. He's like, "Okay," which I was wondering because I went to London and I didn't get this print for some odd reason,
Hmm.
but there was this print of the Guardians of the Republic. You see Din, you see Ahsoka, you see Luke. I
Hmm.
was wondering if this was hinting at something that they would bring up in season 3 or onwards. And I think they
Nah.
did with this. That was like, okay, Ahsoka's been doing this thing as well, but she has a clear goal of hunting down Thrawn and rescuing and finding Ezra. And I feel like this was a good cement thing to put in place of like, all right, this is what Din's doing now. And we see him going back to Navarro and Grief, God bless him, was like, hey, you still got, your deed and whatnot. And the fact
Here's
that
your
they
Kevin.
yeah, they finally bring back IG-11, which I'm happy to see, but I'm also like, it takes away, the moment from season 1 of the death.
It does, but it doesn't, because it makes the whole Grogu using him as a skeleton to walk around in worth it. I
Gundam.
was I was very bothered by that this season. The fact that no, I'm serious, because like
I get it.
the
I
season
understand it.
starts and Din's just like, yeah, I want to reanimate this droid to use him. Okay, cool, sure, that happens. The Anzellans modify him so Grogu can use him. That's a little weird. We have a full episode about like droids literally feeling. um, and then we have like Grogu piloting this skeleton around. And then fast forward, Din outsources someone to fix IG, and the three
Like
Anzellans are
that.
just like, "Oh my god, what is that?" And then we have
Yeah.
like Prim Slim walking up from like Fallout New Vegas, and like I'm just like, I am so like, I love it. Like I love how like IG has this new lease on life. He's decked out in like the Marshall like red and white like colors and
Right.
everything. He has a gun belt and everything. I love it. And it makes the whole Grogu in a mech suit like thing worth it for me. Um,
Okay.
like it does. Because it's a new lease on life, and it goes back to earlier in the episodes, at the droid bar and whatnot. They're like, oh, we just want to continue doing what we're doing and have our own like way to do things. And this is his chance and a new lease on life again. So why not?
And Din gets his rancho. As a Latin man,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, he's got his own ranch. And he's probably listening to like Spanish music or whatever they're cooking up in the galaxy. I'm like, you got that right. Because I've been
It's such
wanting
a
that.
cute little house. Like
I just
perfect.
need either or what's her name? Omera from season 1, the widow
Yeah.
and her daughter. Either I need them or Bo living there now, and I'm like, I'm a happy camper until we gotta face the blue guy. Um
Yeah.
but yeah, that I was just like, that is sweet. Like I know that they're doing the road trip thing of like hunting down the Imperial, but I'm like, just a minute, just for a minute, just sit down and just drink a soda, drink something, and let Grogu play. Oh, that ending meant so much to me, and I was just like, yes, we finally
Yeah.
got that. That was earned. That was
That
earned.
that was that is something that I have also like been looking forward to, is just getting them a moment's rest and like having like a place to actually like somehow like put down roots in a sense, nearby someone that they trust. So like that's grief, and so like they're like a moment's away if they
Yeah,
like need something, and like it was just a very very sweet moment, and you could tell like they both were for the moment at peace as well. Grogu feeling comfortable enough just to like play with the frogs again, and Din having a moment's just breath. um but that fade out though, why did they choose to do the circle? Like, I mean, I guess it was like very like Western, but at the same time, it was very just Looney Tunes. Just so confused why they chose to do that. Uh,
yeah.
just just bizarre. Um, because they didn't use any other wipes like that the entire series, and then suddenly
Just
it's
fade
just
out.
circle. Yeah, they've used like funny like wipes, but like none
Right.
that were a circle. So
No. But that's it for the finale episode, the return. The only thing that I have left to think about is the future and be like, all right. And again, it's only been 12 hours, and I'm not gonna make a breakdown video theory because I'm like, no. I let me rest on this, but I can talk about it for like the last 10, 15 minutes that we have our discussion. That like, okay, part of me before I went to bed was like, it would have been nice to see a connection to Ahsoka and be like, okay, Ahsoka can be like, all right, you want to be the watcher of the Outer Rim for this side of it? Okay, that's fine. I'll do this on this side, but I gotta go find out a friend, and then be like, all right, if you need any help with your friend, let me know. And it would have been nice to see Sabine and Din talk and be like, another Mando, cool. And I yeah, so initially I would have liked the connection to Ahsoka, but after I slept and I thought about it, I'm like, I like that it was secluded. I like that the Mandalorians took back their home world on their own and didn't need my fan fiction of like the ghost popping out and Sabine and Zeb, saying, I heard you needed help and whatnot. I like that it was sort of a self-contained thing, but that they left a little bit of crumbs of like, okay, if Din's here, this is where Ahsoka and Sabine are gonna be here and whatnot. And how does that gonna connect
Yeah.
otherwise. What did you think about where we're gonna go now?
So I think that this was a good cap off. Arguably, they could. This is the end of Mando's like story within this for the time period. Sorry, not the time period, but for like this like arc.
Yeah,
Because like from here they could do whatever. Like they could show like the new stuff on Mandalore. They could show just like his like adventures and whatnot. They could do different chapters of like Book of Boba Fett style, like again. I think that it's enough of like Din and Grogu are content and they are self-contained in their one area and they're doing stuff for the New Republic. Because I don't think that they really needed to show that like what Ahsoka's up to, because like we had like the little like she's looking for Thrawn in back in season 2, right? Yeah.
the Jedi.
Um
Yeah,
and then the little mention in like Book of Boba Fett as well of her just like hanging around, which is weird. That was in Book of Boba Fett. Uh, I think about
I
that a
love
lot
that
still.
moment. I loved it.
It's a very good moment. I'm just like, wait, what show is this? Um, but yeah, I think that the season like capped off like well, like it they had a lot to finish off, and I think that they did what they could with it. And they didn't really introduce anything like new either. If anything, I mean, I still have like a lot of questions like left on like, oh, like what else is like going on out there, but that's going to be explored in Ahsoka. So we'll see that next because that's the next show that's up, and I'm pretty sure Mando season 4 will happen. I don't think that there's any like questions against that. And then
Yeah,
maybe they'll tuck in something else in the meantime. Oh, Skeleton Crew, that's also coming up, but that's going to be its
Skeleton
own little
Crew.
story. So
John
yeah,
Favreau has said that he's already written season 4. There's rumors that they start filming in October. So
okay, yeah,
I
yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked if Din and Grogu pop up in Ahsoka. I wouldn't be shocked by that.
yeah. I think
Um,
that the way that it's left off, they could easily just be like, oh, well, we need an extra set of hands. Let me call up this Mandalorian friend of mine who deals in outer rim problems.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I like to me, what would have been a cool like something hint at Ahsoka that would have been very obscure to the average Joe. But if I would have seen Fen Rao popped up, and if I
yeah,
would have seen that, I would have been like, "That's the Protector. I know who that is." And again, subtle, very background thing. But I feel like season 4 might do some of what season 2 did, where it's like, all right, we're gonna bring in characters or elements that are gonna help us or connect to the movie at hand because besides Skeleton Crew and Ahsoka and season 4 of Mando, there's nothing else either announced or hinted at that
yeah,
up until Filoni's film, which I don't know if I really said it before, but I'm like this. I was in one of the rooms when they announced it. I've never been so happy and proud for him. The only thing right now, all I'm just asking for that movie is just don't put out a release date.
yeah,
Let them sort out these shows first, and then let's focus on that because that's like if in another world, if Infinity War was rushed and it wasn't planned out like it was, that movie would have destroyed our generation. Be like, we let up all this for a trip of a movie, and I feel like Filoni's movie might be that. It might be the Infinity War to Star Wars, which I ain't got no complaints about that. I trust Filoni, what he's been doing, and I like what because we've been talking about Ahsoka. I like what he's been saying about Ahsoka. That like you don't need to watch the shows. You should, and it's on Disney Plus, and it'll help out more with your understanding. But because a lot of the people who don't watch the show like we do are going to go into fresh, so those characters need to connect, and people who haven't even seen probably this show are going to have to connect with Mando later on. So I'm I'm hopeful and of hearing what other stuff I'm hearing about the show and what we're gonna go with that movie. It's just this season was the one where they kept saying this is gonna wrap a lot of things up and whatnot, and it's just like, well, what about Boba Fett and Fennec Shan? I wasn't crazy about the show from beginning to end at the end of it, but like
I
the
really wanted them to
underworld
show
is a
up
side of
again.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really wanted them to show up again in this season. I really wanted Cobb Vanth to show up again. So I mean, like, there's a lot of characters that like Mando needs to like go back to because he has like unfinished, not unfinished business, but like an open invitation more so, like with Boba Fett and Fennec, and Cobb, of course. So that's something I think that they'll tie up eventually. I think that from here on out, Star Wars is always they make something and they fill in the blanks afterwards. Um, which is what they're doing. This entire series is of the Mandalorian and all these shows is filling in the blanks between the originals and the sequels. That's really what it is,
Right.
and it always has been. So it's becoming more obvious now of how they're tying it to the future. It has been like tied to what happened in the past, but now that we're getting all this stuff about the New Republic, we'll see from here like what's actually going to happen, and I don't know. I'm just like super excited to see like the future of like these more of these shows. um Ahsoka's gonna blow all of our minds. Like there's a lot going on. It's gonna be different than Mando, and I'm really excited to like see like what's gonna happen from there.
I am I'm literally biting my tongue of the extra footage I saw that I'm like, oh,
Oh, I saw the
what
leak
is it?
trailers.
You
Oh
know
yeah,
that
yeah.
last
Oh,
shot of what that means?
I've seen the trailers.
Yeah. And I'm gonna ask these last two things where it's like looking at it now and hearing what I heard about Rangers of the New Republic and how they added some of that show, what they were
Yeah.
building up into this season. I think I do feel it. I don't hate it, but there is a consequence, good or bad, of adding layers of that show into this series. And what I dug about what they brought up of Rangers of the New Republic, it would have been like that show would have been awesome to follow, and it would have been so jarring, so it
It
wouldn't have
would
stood out that much, I suppose, in this
it
season.
yeah, the storylines would have made would have been different. Long story short, is
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been so like separated from each other, because there's the one episode this season that mainly focused on Dr. Pershing.
and
Um,
Liking, yeah,
but like in the very beginning of it, it was Mando and Bo-Katan, and then it cuts to them to Elia Kane and Dr. Pershing for like literally 40 minutes, and then it cuts back for the last 10 minutes. It was very weird. It was
yeah,
almost as like someone forgot they put an episode in the middle of an episode. And so the flow would have been different, long story
yeah.
short. Like I love every New Republic moment, and I think that season 3 at the end of the day did suffer a little because they crammed the stuff from Rangers into it. Because they definitely were like, oh, season 3 is going to be the retaking of Mandalore, but also we have to do all of this stuff about the New Republic. And so I think that it suffered a little bit that way. They did complete their goals, and I guess I know what the story is, but from here, anything could happen. And like we all know that like Thrawn's on the horizon, and like the Shadow
Mm-hmm.
Collective, Shadow Council is like rising
Mm-hmm.
in the background, and the First Order is rising in the background, and the New Republic is failing already. So that's all that we know is going to happen from here, and it's going to be great.
I agree. Um, to me, I think Sabine Wren is the Ranger of Lothal. I think that's what she's been
Nah,
up to.
she's
Um,
not a ranger. Come on, you know Sabine. She's gonna be like,
I
no,
know. It's
she's
just me
just there.
fanficting. Um, yeah, I'm gonna sit on the show more this week and just like rewatch it again and take in more stuff and seeing what pops out, because I think something that if they did bring from Rangers was Carson Tava.
Yeah,
Paul, sir, you are a gem to to this world. You are a gem to this galaxy. I'm so happy you're involved in this series and how you're sort of the liaison to the New Republic on behalf of these main characters of ours. And yeah, I am gonna be. Hopefully, who knows? We'll be. But I think when we do see all our heroes together, we see Cobb, we see Mando, we see Bo, we see Sabine, we see Paul, we see Carson, we see all them together. It's gonna be again. It's gonna be like Infinity War 2.0,
yeah,
and I am waiting for that day to come. But until that day, Jamie, thank you so much for popping up on the
of
podcast.
course.
I'm gonna say this, folks, that the crew have something cooking up. I'm gonna add the graphic later, but Jamie, where can people follow you, and what do you have cooking up?
Yeah, so you can find all of my stuff at Jam the Jedi, but also I'm on the Holonet Marauders podcast. And this week for the finale, we actually have Emily Swallow, the armorer herself, coming onto our show.
Holy
So
shit!
check the links for that. It's a fun. Long story short, she's almost a friend. We're very
Nice.
very excited to like chat with her and to have her on the show, and that's what we're doing for the Mandalorian season 3 finale. And you can find everything for Holonet Marauders just at Holonet Marauder on Twitter. There's no S, but Holland Marauders everywhere else. And that's us.
Beautiful. Folks, yeah, this is gonna be an interesting week and a half before Vision season 2.
Oh, geez.
I know.
Yes.
I know.
Gosh, oh my god.
I know. This was a unique journey of the season. Thank you so much if you bothered checking out this video and the channel. And until then, this is the way.